she says, all the perfumes of Arabia will not sweeten this little hand. And that side and that says, oh, oh, oh. And then another person says, oh, what a sea. The heart is truly charged. So that was then the meaning to me then that, the deed that apartheid has done on the people. Yeah. And then I just likened, Lady Macbeth to the type of system that was existing. That whatever could have been done, nothing could ever purify the system of apartheid. And so then, therefore, when then it says, all the perfumes of Arabia will not sweeten this little hand, it meant then that you can bring everything in, but the damage that is done by the system of apartheid can never be repaid. I went to jail, and I really hated the white man because of the system that has been there. But when I came to contact, these guys, yeah, because I'm PhD. So when I met them, these guys, and that hatred to me, well, now we're it off because of the teachings that I got in there. Yeah. You see, in my mind then at that time, the tears that flow from that man brought me now in a revolution that caused me to be completely changed. And then because here's a white man doing this thing to another white man. So what would I say? Yes. Would I say then that this white man is cruel only to me? What is happening to this white man, to his own? You see? When I thought of those things, I started thinking about how can we do then with apartheid? How can we change this thing? Some of us, because we're young, we're saying that no man, let's go and kill this bastard after doing this destruction, and we're going to leave them like that. They've done so much harm that they must all go to the gallows. And but then the question was, after we've done that, what is going to happen? Yes. Yes. That's why then this chapter, is from Macbeth, from Lady Macbeth. And this man say, I would not have such a heart for the dignity of the book. Then so then that I will not have myself having that type of thing that will be able then to be scared to humanity as a whole.
Yeah.
Because the politicians, we are still politicians. And when we went to prison, we went out of conviction. We were convinced that the country is not properly governed. We, as black people, denied, voting rights, didn't have rights at all, no franchise. And we were prepared to fight for that, struggle against apartheid regime and overthrow it where possible. And when we were sentenced to long life imprisonment, we were always certain in our own minds that one day we'll come out of prison. We're not going to die in prison. There was that conviction in us that one day we'll come out of prison and hopefully we'll put things right. That conviction has always been there. And we said, once we are out, we'll help the forces that are fighting against apartheid system to achieve what is good for the country, to do what is good for the country, to enfranchise the disenfranchised people ourselves. And we did precisely that. We haven't completed our job. There's still many things we haven't done. But our governments moving towards satisfying the needs of the people of South Africa, black and white.
Like I said, one of these, you face many deprivations in prison. The main one I'd say is the absence of children. So children still make a tremendous impact. And being politicians, freedom of speech will be like and that is why when we get people like you prepared to listen, we try to make up for 26 years of deprivation.
That's true.
Well, apartheid applied in gradations. On top of the ladder were the whites, with privilege of the whites, and the whites were not with us. Immediately under them were the Indians and the coloreds. At the bottom of the ladder were the Africans. So in every respect, they had the worst of it, outside and inside of prison. What Kwedi has not mentioned is whereas when we arrived on Robben Island, I was the only Indian among the 7. We were 8 really, but the 8th one was white. And because he was white, he was not brought to Robben Island. He was kept with other white prisoners. So among the 7, I was the only Indian. And the youngest of the 7. Not the youngest on Robben Island because we had people of 15 and 16. But I'm saying this because just to show how apartheid applied. We landed, they brought us by plane. And we landed then chained, shackled. I was shackled to the father of the former President Dingake. Anyway, that was beside the point. He was 20 years my senior. When we had to change into prison clothes, because they were African, they had to wear short trousers, no socks. I was given long trousers and socks. The rationale behind short trousers is all Africans, regardless of age, were boys or girls. So you had little children talking about my garden boy, my kitchen girl, regardless of age. And boys wear short trousers. So all these leaders, our leaders, because they were Africans, they were boys. Now, apart the food, they were not given bread. We were given bread. The meat, the fish, ours was little more than theirs, but less than the whites. But the whites were not there. That's how, I don't know, the minds that invented this type of thing, but they did.
The lack of leadership is, there were those people who were in some kinds of leadership positions, but we didn't see it. We didn't see that leadership. They didn't show it. And they were known for having been politically active, but now were very much in the background. And we engaged with a variety of them and across the political spectrum, and realized, by the way, we can't rely on any of them to engage with us in terms of developing a political awareness campaign, which we got into in the late 60s and through the 70s. So we essentially did it on our own. And hence, I think, in a way, when Steve Biko said, "Black man, you're on your own," meant, well, you're on your own now, you need to do something about it, because you cannot rely on any of these icons. The Mandelas were in jail, and the late 60s and early 70s, they had no profile. We came in to Robben Island, having in other prisons that we'd been in, changed how they dealt with political prisoners. And then to come to Robben Island and find that we had to go backwards was a massive shock. And we continued doing what we were doing elsewhere in other prisons. So we greet each other very proudly with Amandla. And lo and behold, the person you're greeting will promptly turn to the wall and totally disacknowledge you. So that's why in The Long Walk to Freedom, in what eventually was left in the book in terms of our the Mandela describing us, shows you the impatience, if you like, of youth, and how we were indeed a group that required taming, because Mandela alludes to the fact that he was called in by the prison head and had to deal with these post-76 people who were not willing to kowtow to rules that we saw as impacting on our human dignity, things that we didn't have to do. The rules that were there, bad as they were, we would really take to the wire and constantly defy, and then if forced to, would abide by. But we weren't going to allow our wings to be clipped, and we didn't. So we got labeled as impatient, angry young men. And indeed, you see, when you and it's developmental, when your youth, your late teens, early 20s gets constrained in that terrible fashion, and you're confined physically to a space that is 1.5 meters by just over 2 meters or something like that, you're going to be, a few things can happen. One is you're going to resist that physical imposition, intellectually, emotionally, and spiritually, because physically you may break your head against the wall, but otherwise you have to be there. But intellectually you don't have to accept that. You know that this is an imposition. And at heart, ours was a fight for dignity of the mass of our people that even today have not received that dignity. The Constitution may scream it, but in reality, the majority of our people are way beyond even a modicum of participating in an equality that they expected post-94.
You know, in politics, you have people who are really, who will be really committed, but you may have others really who are in politics because, they believe, you see, the cause is right, but we are not completely, committed. They may be influenced by a friend, a relative, or because sometimes it may even because they're in love with somebody, in politics,
very much,
or because the love, you see, the oratory of some leader who can stand at public rallies and really give a rousing, you see, speech. Now, people don't, sometimes they haven't really thought it out, that what am I committing myself to? In any case, in my mind, I'd always been very psychologically prepared. So what I'm really saying is, it's really some people don't, they join in, especially the sort of difficult struggles like we're in without actually thinking. You see what I wanted to say, and you are stayed for. There, my blessing with thee. And these few precepts in thy memory, look thou character, give thy thoughts no time, no any unproportioned thought is act. This above all to thine own self be true. And it must follow as the night, the day. Thou canst not then be forced to any, should be man, yeah, any man. Farewell, my blessing, season this in thee. It's quite loaded, you see. It's really loaded with what we all should know. How, as human beings, conduct ourselves and so on. But it also means, you really must always think before you do plunge into anything. Think carefully.
Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day to the last syllable of recorded time. And all our yesterdays have lighted fools the way to dusty death. Out, out, brief candle. Life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Yeah, my background is one of being illiterate.
Okay.
When I went to prison, I had a standard 6 education,
Okay.
a grade 8.
Yes.
I had never heard of Shakespeare. So when I was allowed to study,
Yes.
it was the first time that I encountered Shakespeare. Part of my syllabus was to know certain aspects of Shakespeare, like Macbeth, Romeo and Juliet, and others. And to me, Shakespeare was a voyage of discovery. It was the first time I read plays and poems and poetry with such depth, and I was really in awe. He could portray the insignificance of man, that we are just mere mortals. Eventually we'll turn to dust, and the world will not remember us. Here's the unbanning. Will we still remember it in 20 years' time? Or 20 years after? Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow.
Yes.
And the unbanning, of course, the 20th anniversary of unbanning is a great event in our lives.
Yes.
Because that particular day, 20 years ago, changed the character of our country. And today we look back. But that banning of yesteryear,
Yes.
20 years ago, was done in a climate where there was hate and pain and deep sorrow. There was also the wonderful values of those who were fighting the apartheid government at that time. values of integrity, of justice for all, of dignity. Those values were important for us. 20 years later, those values have not got the same values to others. That they are freedom fighters of yesteryear,
Yes.
who swore by the Freedom Charter, who today swear at the Freedom Charter because of the evil corruption. That is the difference between 20 years ago and today. We, in the struggle, we fought for what we believed in, for idealism, for peace, for reconciliation. We fought for dignity, we fought for respect, we fought for integrity. We had no thought of enriching ourselves. Ms. Mandela never thought he'd become president. I did not think I would survive. But we did. Those were our values. Not values of self-enrichment, not values of greed, not values of trying to get the best at the expense of another. Our values were good. Today, 20 years later, it cannot be said the same for everybody else. There are good people, yes, very good people, but there are also bad people. And those bad people have cast a shadow on the efforts of those who had died to bring about our changes in South Africa.